3 days. That is how close ABC came to premiering what was supposed to be the franchise-saving season of The Bachelorette before the entire thing imploded. Or maybe exploded. On March 19th, TMZ published leaked video footage from a 2023 domestic violence incident between Taylor Frankie Paul and her ex-boyfriend Dakota Mortensen. Footage that was so disturbing that Disney pulled the plug on the season within hours. The premiere was scheduled for this Sunday, literally tomorrow. Taylor had been on Good Morning America the day before the leak. She walked the Oscars red carpet the weekend prior. This promotional machine was up and running at full speed when it crashed into something the network honestly should have seen coming a long time ago. But here's the thing that makes this story more than just some other reality television scandal. None of this was a secret. We all knew about it. If you watched Secret Lives of Mormon Wives at all, which has become the biggest reality show in the world, I mean, the debut of season 3 of this show beat out the Kardashians. That's how huge this was/is. And not only that, Taylor's behavior could have easily been vetted even if she wasn't on a reality television show, because that 2023 arrest that was featured in the pilot season of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, the literal first episode, featured this incident. The cameras were there the night of the incident. You can go watch the pilot right now and you'll see it. But the arrest is also public record. And we all know that Taylor pleaded guilty to aggravated assault. She has talked about it multiple times ad nauseum. The rest of the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives series has followed her healing path, her healing journey from what she always described as her lowest point. And a lot of those details were already public record. So when ABC cast her anyway, they kind of banked on the cultural moment of Mom Talk to just kind of resuscitate a dying franchise and ignored a lot of fans who were like, no, 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 Taylor Frankie Paul is an abuser. And yet the Bachelorette producers were like, we're just gonna pretend that didn't happen. So what followed was a masterclass in what you could only call institutional denial. It's a case study in the complexity of mutual abuse, mind you, and it's a sobering reminder that the entertainment industry will always prioritize ratings over responsibility. That is until the footage leaks. So let's break this all down. What exactly happened in 2023? So in February of 2023, Taylor Frankie Paul was arrested after a violent altercation with Dakota at their home. According to the police report and the video that would surface this week, the incident occurred after a night out where Taylor had been drinking. She's since explained in a court-filed mental health assessment that she'd been emotionally spiraling, processing feelings about her divorce and a recent ectopic pregnancy that had apparently occurred just a few days prior. And none of that excuses what happened next, but it's just a little bit of crucial context. Now, in the video that is filmed by Mortensen on his cell phone, it shows Taylor putting him in a headlock, kicking him, and hurling 3 metal bar stools in his direction. At one point, he even points out that her daughter from her previous marriage, Indy, was on a couch nearby. So they're having this explosive argument in front of children. I can't imagine the emotional trauma that this must have on that little girl. And I haven't opened up too much about this really, but I came from a broken home where there were a lot of verbal arguments constantly. My first memory, in fact, is me. I think I'm like 3 years old and I'm just screaming at my parents to stop fighting. That's literally my first memory. So she knows this little girl this is going to be a core traumatic memory for her. And she got hit by one of the stools. Now, a lot of people upon watching the video have pointed out that Dakota says to Taylor that her daughter is right there, and then he moves towards the daughter essentially kind of putting the little girl in the line of fire. And in the video, you can also see that if he had gone the opposite direction, he could have brought Taylor away from the child. So there are some people on the internet who are basically implying that Dakota intentionally put this little girl in danger to make Taylor look even more unhinged. Others are saying that maybe he was stepping towards the little girl to try to protect the little girl. Others are pointing out that the cell phone was in Dakota's hand, and Taylor is a very petite and very lean woman. So they're pointing out that maybe if he had just put his phone away, perhaps he could have overpowered her and gotten her to calm down, or at least stop throwing things, or brought her outside of the home. There's so much speculation going on over the internet. There's so many people trying to place blame on who's really at fault in this incident. Now, this brings me to the reality television of it all. Now, obviously, in a co parenting situation, it's going to be a complicated scenario whether or not the relationship was previously healthy. In this case, we're also dangling this carrot of fame and fortune connected to a reality show where the people on the reality show are expected to share their real, authentic selves and every single celebration and hardship in their lives. Dakota kind of got sucked into that world and started becoming friendly, good friends, best friends even, with the other women's husbands, and he would effectively become part of what they would coin dad talk. It's kind of this play off of mom talk, which is how these women even rose to fame to begin with. It was all from making TikTok videos, and then guess who? Taylor exposed a swinging scandal, and the rest is history. So, these two people who are incredibly toxic to each other, whether it's from encouragement from reality television producers or of their own accord or just feeling the pressure to make good TV, these two people, Dakota and Taylor, who are inherently toxic and honestly dangerous for each other, are constantly being put into scenarios where they have to be in close proximity so that the cameras can, catch their fight. If you watch this series start to finish, you will see that the series really does paint Dakota as more of the instigator who tries to get an emotional reaction out of Taylor. And Taylor, especially in season 3, she is trying to heal herself. She's been very transparent about what she did. She's taken responsibility for the incident and is seemingly trying to improve her life. She's on probation. She's stopped drinking. She is constantly, though, going back and forth with what she wants to do with her relationship with Dakota. Now, in season 3, and this is leading up to the Bachelorette's kind of casting of her, we really see her lean into the therapeutic side of her healing journey. She kind of disappears from filming for 2 weeks to go to this intensive therapeutic retreat. At least that's what she said she was doing. We see Dakota and Taylor in couples counseling. And meanwhile, all of her friends and family are screaming for her to stop engaging with him, stop talking to him, stop sleeping with him, which she likes to do basically every time they are ever get the opportunity, to be honest. So obviously, fans don't like Dakota. They're lighting up and revving up Taylor, and fans are starting to admire that she owns her toxicity, but she's working on it, or at least that's what the narrative is telling us. It becomes clear that Dakota cheats on her and he crosses the line when it comes to the people he entertained sexually and romantically who are in Taylor's circle. But we also see, especially in season 4, this flip side of Taylor where you're like, why do you care what he does? You two are no longer together. You say you want nothing to do with him. And yet, if you hear that he sleeps with anybody, you lose your mind. Now, what really started aggravating the audience, and this is when I said, oh no, The Bachelorette audience is going to eat Taylor alive. And this is prior to the video coming out and prior to the second round of domestic violence allegations that I will talk about very shortly, is the fact that she ended up sleeping with Dakota the night before she flew out to California to begin shooting The Bachelor. She actually didn't even get on the plane to go shoot The Bachelor. She got onto a plane later in the day because she was too sick to get on the first plane. She had her friends trying to surprise her at the airport to wish her luck, and she just didn't show up. So they went to her house and basically begged her to get out the door. They believe that if she went and she filmed The Bachelorette, this, what Taylor likes to call over and over again, toxic cycle with Dakota, would finally be done. She would meet someone who is the love of her life. But throughout season 4, we see Taylor just constantly self-sabotage. It becomes very, very clear in season 4 that the women have to walk on eggshells around her. It becomes clear that she is very, very quick to react. And if you have someone who also has abusive tendencies and they notice that they can get you to look absolutely unhinged and unstable by getting a rise out of you, they are going to do just that. They are going to be able to completely control the narrative, and people online are arguing that that's exactly what Dakota is doing. Many people who are highly educated on dynamics are noticing some of these patterns, and we're kind of seeing this deflection slash the Darvo method when we hear about how Taylor has been reacting to all of the backlash, saying that we're missing context and she can't wait to share her side of the story. And the thing about situations like this is it's incredibly nuanced. In my opinion, there's no one person at fault here. They are both terrible to each other. One of them is gasoline and the other is a match. And when they are near each other, it is just explosive. Yes, two things can be true at once. Dakota can be intentionally, emotionally, and psychologically abusive to Taylor, trying to get a rise out of her so that he has a method to control her. If she is so wrapped up in what he's doing and who he's with, she is effectively giving him attention, and she might make decisions based off of how angry she is at him that bring her closer to him. He knows that she is so reactive that if there is a conflict, he can point to her and say, see, she's unstable. She's quote unquote crazy. She's unhinged. The problem is her. And she takes the bait every single time. She is reactive. She has a difficult time controlling her emotions. She lashes out, whether it's verbally or physically, as we've seen. We even saw her do this to her mother, her family in season 4. We saw her friends walk on eggshells in season 4 because they were afraid to tell her that Dakota had started hooking up with one of a friend of a friend, because Dakota had started hooking up with someone within Taylor's proximity. One of the Mom Talk members' friends had started sleeping with Dakota, and instead of taking it out on anyone truly involved like Dakota, she took it out on all of her friends, the woman he was sleeping with, and then went and slept with him later. So when we're trying to place blame on a situation like this, there are so many factors involved, in my opinion. We have a reactive person and we have a manipulative control freak who allegedly has been hungry for fame for years, and people are alleging that he knew who Taylor was ahead of meeting her and kind of just jumped on her coattails to try to get fame and glory and success and money. All of that's alleged, and it doesn't excuse any of the behavior. So we already have this toxic dynamic going on. We have producers wanting to put on a great television show, and it is thanks to Taylor's absolutely unhinged behavior, in part because I do find the other women interesting and intriguing. And I think the entire lifestyle is intriguing, although I'm really tired of people platforming people who are in active cults like Mormonism, but that's neither here nor there for this particular video. Check out all my other videos if you want to hear some cult breakdowns. I've covered Mormonism extensively on this channel. But we have these producers whose main goal is to drive an audience. And when there's drama, when there's explosive arguments, when there's heightened emotions, that's always going to be what these producers go for. And then on top of that, we have the business that is mom talk. These women make their money online and in the reality world. They're also getting incredible opportunities outside of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. One of the moms is on Broadway now. Like, they're getting great opportunities. So when DeuxMoi broke that these women didn't want to shoot with Taylor anymore, I mean, everyone knew exactly why, especially if you're a fan of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. So that brings me to how exactly this story broke. Because before TMZ got the video that everyone's been talking about, and just to clarify again, the video is from the 2023 incident. It is not recent. ABC would have known that Taylor was on probation for assault, that it could become a felony if she didn't follow her probation. Keep that in the back of your mind as we continue, because it's going to make ABC's reaction to this all the more frustrating. Before ABC was scrambling into crisis mode and before the mainstream press picked up this story, it was already circulating online by anonymous tip accounts. I first saw it on DeuxMoi, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. I'm not sure if I am. So if you don't know, DeuxMoi is an anonymous Instagram gossip account that's known for publishing blind items and reader submissions anonymously. Now, if you don't know, DeuxMoi is the anonymous Instagram gossip account that's known for publishing blind items and reader submissions. It effectively said that the cast of a very popular reality show was basically boycotting filming. They were refusing to film with one of the other characters on the show because she is associated with a really, really popular franchise, and they wanted to put some distance between her while she was involved in The Bachelorette. So immediately, since Secret Lives of Mormon Wives had just come out and we all were gearing up, we knew, season 4 was all about Taylor going to The Bachelorette, people just put the pieces together. Additionally, around the same time, TikTok gossip reporter Amanda Christine began sharing details from what she described as a source with inside knowledge of the situation and claimed that Taylor and Dakota had gotten into a huge fight at Dakota's Utah home and that Dakota's roommate called the cops out of fear at the end of February. So what made this rumor feel particularly different from the usual gossip cycle was who was co-signing it. People had already alleged that the Mormon wives had written into DeuxMoi. And apparently, Mormon wife Layla Taylor liked the TikTok post. And so this lended a layer of implicit credibility that turned all of the speculation into something that was more concrete. So by the time TMZ and People confirmed the open police investigation with the Draper City Police Department, the internet had already been running with the story for days. At this point, it's not just gossip. It is literally national news. And all of this matters because everything I've covered so far undercuts the narrative that, oh, well, this just all came out of nowhere. The Whisper Network. And there's the argument that if fans on TikTok could piece this all together from just anonymous tips and a single liked post, the idea that ABC, a company with vetting teams and legal departments and a direct corporate relationship with the show Taylor stars on, was somehow blindsided? No, I think that's just difficult to believe. So in February 2026, Draper City Police Department confirmed that officers made contact with both Taylor and Dakota on February 24th and 25th following a domestic allegation. And what makes this incident particularly significant and particularly complicated is the statement from law enforcement that, quote, allegations have been made in both directions. It's not a one-sided story, like I've said, so treating it as such just does a disservice to everyone involved, including the children. So TMZ broke the initial news of the investigation on March 15th, just hours after Taylor had appeared on the Oscars red carpet, which aired on ABC. And the timing alone tells you something about how quickly the ground was shifting. And then sponsors started pulling out. So we have Hulu pausing filming season 5 of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. We have TMZ dropping that there was a domestic incident. And then sponsors start pulling out. Cinnabon terminated its partnership with both The Bachelorette and The Mormon Wives, stating that, quote, recent developments and allegations surrounding the lead cast member no longer aligned with the brand's values. The Tonight Show also canceled Taylor's scheduled appearance. And then, on March 19th, the 2023 video dropped. And that's when it was over. And there is one image that really has captured the severity of this situation. TMZ was able to obtain from a Utah courthouse on March 19th that Taylor's ex, Tate Paul, and her ex-boyfriend, Dakota Mortensen, two men who literally share nothing in common except having dated or married Taylor, were photographed chatting in the courthouse lobby. Both had shown up the same day around the same time to file separate protective orders against Taylor. They arrived independently, without attorneys, and TMZ sources confirmed that they did not coordinate their visits. They just happened to be there the same time that morning, which, do you believe that? But if it's true, we're just going to let that sink in for a minute. Two separate men from two separate chapters of Taylor's life, independently deciding on the same day and the same time that they needed legal protection from her. I mean, that's a coordinated takedown, right? That's a pattern. Dakota's filing, obtained by TMZ, detailed allegations from February 23rd and 24th this year. According to his petition, he was at Taylor's home with their son Ever when an argument escalated. He alleged that Taylor choked him, shoved him into a window, and struck him. He described the situation as chaotic and frightening, claiming their son woke up from all the commotion. Dakota alleged that he called 911, but that Taylor pressured and manipulated him into telling dispatch that the child was sick, so the call ended. He further alleged that after he left the home, Taylor texted him claiming that she had a bloody nose and needed medical attention, which he believes was an attempt to lure him back and prevent him from calling the police. His petition requested temporary sole custody of Ever and that Taylor be prohibited from drinking or using drugs during her parenting time. Now, I just want to share a statistic from DV experts. First of all, it is incredibly difficult to get out of the abuse cycle if you're a victim. And when you do try to leave, it seems to be the most dangerous time because if your abuser is losing control over you, they're going to amp up all of their tactics. But something that's incredibly disturbing is if a domestic issue escalates to the point of strangulation, it's 8 times more likely to end in homicide. It is 8 times more likely to end in the death of a human being. This is an incredibly dangerous and delicate situation that does need to be taken incredibly seriously. There have been missteps and a lot of brushing under the rug since the show's inception. The pilot featured the first DV incident. And if Tate is filing a protective order, and if there's anything you know about protective orders, you have to show that there has already been some kind of abusive action towards you in order to obtain one, or you have to have been in a romantic relationship with someone. So that tells me that there is the potential that Taylor has behaved this way in prior relationships. And it remains unclear whether Tate's protective order petition was actually formally filed, but his presence at the courthouse still speaks volumes because he and Taylor share 2 children, her daughter, who is now 8 years old, and a 5-year-old son. So it really just tells you something had to have happened, right? And now here's where we need to sit with even more discomforts, because that video was incredibly dangerous to watch, and there's really no ambiguity about it. Taylor is the physical aggressor in the 2023 incident. She's hitting, kicking, and throwing objects at Dakota while their child is in the room. The police report documents his injuries with redness and swelling around his eyes, swelling on his elbow, scratches on his fingers, and a laceration on his neck. But the video does not capture what preceded it. Taylor's representatives call it selectively edited and frames its release, which was on their son Ever's second birthday, by the way, as a deliberate and calculated act by Dakota. So, whether or not you believe that framing, the reality is that a cell phone recording that starts mid altercation is an incomplete document. It's not a defense of what the video shows. It's a statement about what we can and cannot know from a single piece of footage. And that leads to the part of the story that a lot of people don't really want to engage with. The in this relationship does appear to go both directions. Police have even said so. There's absolutely no justification for anything ever getting violent, especially in front of a child. At one point, Taylor should have said, I am disengaging. She should have refused to film with Dakota. She should have exited the situation. Let's say his game plan was to instigate her so much so that he could get this video, as some people are alleging. Then she just took the bait. She did. She does not have control over her emotions or her actions. A lot of Taylor apologists are trying to make this argument. Dakota instigated her. This is all he ever does. He's the main actor. Well, yes, the narrative on the Hulu show would have you believing that because Dakota does treat her terribly. He does a lot of things that make you scratch your head. He does a lot of things that make you wonder, Taylor, why are you continuing to entertain and sleep with this man? And there is no doubt that a toxic cycle is difficult to break. But this toxic cycle has been exploited for television, which is going to make it even more difficult to break because there is a price tag on it. There is an incentive to keep being toxic because these two people were both getting more and more and more famous and getting more and more opportunities, despite the fact that this went on. And cast members have even weighed in on this. Macy Neely told Dakota to his face on the show that his behavior toward Taylor was reminiscent of her own past abusive relationship. There are multiple women on the show who have had abusive experiences in the past, so I can't imagine how triggering this must be for them. And TMZ has reported that Dakota was privately showing friends multiple videos of Taylor being physically violent with him, spanning a significant period of time that isn't clear quite yet. Now, both parties have been ordered to undergo psychological evaluations by the Utah Division of Children and Family Services. So none of this is simple, and none of it points to one singular cause or person to blame. Domestic violence rarely is simple. It's entirely possible, and research supports this, in this relationship to have engaged in patterns of. Now, that doesn't create any real moral relevance, and it doesn't minimize the severity of what is on that video, but it does mean that anyone treating this as a clean-cut narrative of villain and victim is just oversimplifying a situation that involves children, active investigations, and two people who are locked in an incredibly destructive cycle. But ABC knew. Everyone knew. I mean, Dakota literally told them. According to TMZ, Dakota Mortensen personally had conversations with Bachelorette producers before filming began to warn them about Taylor's behavior in past episodes. Two sources in Taylor's circle confirmed that Dakota flagged his concerns directly to production, and they pressed forward anyways. In fact, producers were reportedly so undeterred that they were even interested in having Dakota appear on Taylor's season in some capacity, and he ultimately did not film. They wanted the toxicity to come out. He had also previously expressed his concerns about their relationship dynamic to the production team behind Mormon Wives. So let me just say that the alleged victim in a domestic case, the man on the other side of a guilty plea for aggravated assault went directly to the producers of The Bachelorette and told them it was a bad idea to cast his her, and then they cast her anyway. And Variety's reporting adds another layer. According to sources, Warner Brothers Unscripted, the production company behind The Bachelorette, had concerns about casting Taylor given her well-documented history. But apparently ABC pushed for it, noting that Taylor and the Mormon Wives franchise was an important opportunity for the company. A source told TMZ that producers cut corners in the vetting process because they wanted her so badly. She had 6.1 million followers on TikTok and 2.3 million Instagram followers. She was the face of the hottest unscripted franchise Disney had, and the Bachelor universe was hemorrhaging relevance. So the network looked at the risk, looked at the numbers, and then rolled the dice. Then, when it all went sideways, Disney's official statement referenced the newly released video just surfaced today, as if the video was the problem and not the decision to platform someone mid-probation for aggravated assault whose own ex had personally warned them. A source connected to the show told TMZ that no one at ABC had seen the video before TMZ posted it Thursday morning. And now that might be technically true, but framing this as a reaction to new information is disingenuous at best. You didn't need to see the video. You had the court records. You had the police report. You had it literally featured on your own streaming platform. And you had the man himself sitting across from your producers telling you not to do this. So the network spent the entire week this week insisting that the show was going to go forward as planned. Taylor was doing press, GMA, Live with Kelly and Mark, a whole press preview event in New York. Former Bachelorette Deanna Pappas suggested on a podcast that ABC was in crisis mode, though, with interview questions being carefully managed for Taylor. TMZ reported that a crisis PR team had even been brought in. And then hours after the video leaked, ABC scrubbed Taylor and The Bachelorette from its website and acted as if it was all a surprise. Now, that's not necessarily getting blindsided, that's getting caught. Or, as some netizens who have experience in PR are pointing out, ABC is now privy to something worse having happened, and they are trying to get ahead of it before the fallout gets even bigger so that they can say, oh, well, see, we axed her back when we saw this other video, so we have nothing to do with this new, whether it's a video or a police report that comes out from the alleged February 2026 incident. So I'm not sure if you know more about PR tactics and what ABC might be trying to do right now in order to save themselves. I'd be very curious about your insight in the comments. According to Verify, ABC could be out tens of millions of dollars if it cannot salvage this season, with some people saying it could cost them up to $100 million. And other people who have experience with legal teams saying that Taylor herself might get fined because she was breaking some of their morals and ethics codes. But I mean, she did get hired mid-probation for SA, so who knows? Now, obviously, the public response, like I've talked about a little bit, has been overwhelming, and it's still a little divided, which is confusing. There are people who think they've seen Taylor grow, and they will stand by her. And on that same side are the people who have seen Dakota treat her poorly on the show. I mean, he's already been demonized by the public. There's always been calls to kick him off the show. And on the other side, there's a wave of outrage directed squarely at Taylor. I think when you don't actually realize that we have access to public records and any human, anyone in America can, thanks to the Freedom of Information Act, request those files from police stations. But not everyone's going to do that. So a lot of the things and the gossip online regarding the first incident back in 2023, they've been mixed. They don't know the full story, or they're just choosing to turn a blind eye to it, even though we saw it again in that pilot episode. But this video, It provides visceral, visual evidence of physical aggression. And for a lot of viewers, that's the beginning of the end of the conversation. Additionally, several of the male contestants from her Bachelorette season have actually spoken out and reportedly feel betrayed because they'd signed on hoping for a genuine experience and probably some clout and found themselves caught in a situation that they had no control over. Other people have said that ABC needs to take a stand against domestic violence. But again, there are those Taylor supporters that think this is all a coordinated campaign by Dakota to try to destroy her career at its peak. I mean, we have the timing of the video's release on their son's birthday, 3 days before the premiere. I mean, that strikes a lot of people as deliberate. Now, Taylor's team has framed her as a domestic violence survivor who has been suffering in silence and is only now finding the strength to speak. So that framing resonates with people who have had similar dynamics in their life, regardless of what the 2023 video shows. Now, media researchers do point out that viewers simply, we don't know the full picture of their relationship. Audiences are primed to recognize physical violence as abuse, but other forms of violence, like coercive control or surveilling a partner, are a lot harder to depict or detect on screen. Quote, "Once it becomes entertainment, we can become desensitized to the severity of the topic," unquote. That's what media researcher Soraya Giacardi Vargas had to say. I mean, we are seeing a series of snapshots, some captured on camera, some filtered through representatives and lawyers, but none of them are complete. And there is a deeper conversation here about how the entertainment industry handles DV, and not as an abstract concept, but as an active, ongoing situation that is involving real people and real children. Disney owns both Hulu and ABC, and Taylor Paul is on shows across both platforms. Her arrest was content for the platform. Her relationship was content. Her instability was content. And the moment the content became too uncomfortable to air, the same company that profited from documenting her life pivoted to a statement about, quote, supporting the family. It's worth noting something NBC News reported that hasn't gotten enough attention. A source close to Mormon Wives said Hulu mandated a week-long break in filming after executives witnessed discussions of domestic violence during filming. When new information came to light that week, cast members told production that they wouldn't continue unless Hulu took action. That's not entertainment industry language. That's a cry for intervention from the people closest to the situation. And obviously, Taylor Frankie Paul is not blameless here. The video is real. The assault charge is real. The child who was hurt is real. The fact that both her exes showed up at the same courthouse on the same day seeking protection from her is real. But she is also a person who has been processed through a machine that rewards dysfunction and then acts shocked when the dysfunction escalates. ABC didn't cast her despite those red flags. They cast her because of them. They wanted the volatility, the drama, the on again, off again relationship, the legal history. They wanted all of it. That was the point. The quiet part was always that someone this unstable makes for great television. And the loud part is what happens when you just can't control the story anymore. So as of recording this, The Bachelorette is shelved indefinitely. And production on season 5 of Mormon Wives remains paused. The Draper City Police Department's investigation is ongoing, with allegations running in both directions, and both Taylor and Dakota have been ordered to undergo psychological evaluations. Dana Walden, Disney's new president, as of this week, inherited this crisis on her second day on the job. And somewhere in a conference room, executives are already trying to figure out if there's a way to still air the season eventually. Because at the end of the day, that's what this has been about. It hasn't been about Taylor, not Dakota, not the children caught in the middle. It's been about the content, the money. The machine never stops, it just pauses production. Now, as of sitting down to record this, I got another piece of information that on the legal front, Dakota's protective order petition has hit a procedural snag. Court records confirmed by NBC News show that the filing was sent back because it was incomplete, and an amended petition has been requested. So, despite the urgency of the courthouse visit and the dramatic image of both Taylor and Dakota showing up that same morning, there is no active protective order in place against Taylor as of this recording. Obviously, it doesn't diminish the seriousness of the allegations, but it does mean that this story is still very much in the allegations and filing phase, not the court orders and ruling phase. So, literally, everything remains in motion, and I will try to update you as soon as I can. I am sure I'll have an update for you next week, midweek for you. Overall, this is an incredibly heartbreaking situation. It's affecting a lot of people's lives, a lot of people's livelihoods. I mean, as someone who's in the entertainment industry myself, hun it takes hundreds of people to put on one episode of a television show. I mean, when you consider the casting department all the way to post-production, the editors, and everybody in between, it's a lot of work. I mean, we're talking months of pre-production. We're talking hours upon months of editing. We're talking it's just it takes a village truly. So when you consider the impact that this situation has had on the people who are not the decision makers at the networks, it is really, really heartbreaking, and it's heartbreaking for the children involved, and I'm sure it's triggering and heartbreaking for anyone who's experienced a DV situation, who sees these patterns play out on their television and saw that video. I mean, I couldn't even finish it. It was really difficult to watch, and it's just overall an incredibly heartbreaking story, and it's affected a lot of people. I mean, I commend the cast of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives for finally taking a stance and speaking out. I know that the there's some criticism against the women. Well, you were still filming with Taylor. The pilot featured her DV, and you guys still filmed with her then. What's different now? I think something else really bad happened after The Bachelor was filmed. I think that February incident was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, and we have to remember that, and we've seen it play out on our TVs if we're watching Secret Lives. We've seen these women try to speak out against Taylor and kind of get gaslit into being grateful to her because it's her scandals that made the show itself blow up the way it did. And so it's like they owe Taylor for their success. So how dare they speak out against her or not film with her? They would lose opportunities too. It's a really manipulative, difficult situation for everyone to be involved in. And I think that ABC really made a big, big, big mistake. And Taylor does need to be held accountable for what she's done, what she's doing. And I really think she needs some mental health help as well. Honestly, I think everyone who's witnessed any of this behavior needs a lot of mental health support. And I just really hope that the younger generations who are watching Taylor recognize that that behavior, the relationship between her and Dakota, is dangerous and toxic and should have no space in anyone's life. If anyone is ever trying to incriminate you by instigating you into a reaction, you have to learn to let it go, not let them control you, because that is a different method of control. And if you find yourself in a domestic violence, DV, or dangerous situation, I've left some resources down in the pinned comment below for you, because I want to mention here it takes on average statistically 7 tries for someone to escape a dangerous, violent, abusive relationship. And we do need to show grace for that toxic cycle it can be very, very difficult for people to leave. And it sounds like there was a lot of toxicity and abuse from both ends in this scenario. That's just my opinion. Um, and my heart just breaks for those children and the families that are being affected. So thank you guys all for watching. I'm eager to hear your opinions down below. We do need to hold people accountable. We do, point blank. I believe in the end ABC's done the right move in scrapping The Bachelorette and deplatforming someone who is an actor who is on probation, who will be a felon most likely now if charges are pressed. So, yeah, it's heavy, you guys. It's a lot. And it really makes you wonder about the content that you consume. These reality shows. People love watching the drama and the scandal and the outrageous behavior, but we can't let it seep into our psyche so much that we start normalizing behavior like this. Anyways, everyone, please, please, please take care of yourself. Stay safe out there. And please always ask questions. I'll see you in my next video soon. Bye, guys.